because of you.
Well, hi there. This is Cindy Dole. You're listening to Home Wizards, Hour 2 of the place where we love to help you enjoy the spaces you call home. Home Improvement Radio, all things home, garden, and life improvement, in fact, because I think that when we figure out how to just enjoy wherever you live, that you feel like your life is better. So thanks for sharing part of your Saturday and your weekend adventures with me. Coming up in the second hour, we're going to talk about a lot of fun things, including how do you hire an interior designer? Have you ever thought about hiring someone to help you with your dream? What do you look for in that person? What are the do's and don'ts? How do you know if it's a good fit? And what's it going to cost? We're going to talk with the California Council for Interior Design Certification and get really smart on that. Then later on, to repair or to replace. Consumer Reports is out with it. It's this list of what to watch out for and how do you know when it's cost effective to replace a product. Do you have a front loader or a top loader washer? Well, wait until you hear which is more prone to problems. 888-539-2980 is the number, 888-539-2980. And I hope that you will follow me on Facebook. Just go to facebook.com/follow Cindy. If you haven't yet, we were talking about it, Billy D and I, and earlier in the show, that we have these incredible pictures on my Facebook page now. We are watching basically the birth of a monarch butterfly on our patio, and it's just about to spread its wings, and it's been so cool because many weeks back you probably heard me talking with this guy who is a specialist in bringing monarchs to your garden, and he says it's all about the milkweed. So he gave me this milkweed plant, and he gave me also the caterpillar, the monarch caterpillar, and so we've been watching it. First it just kind of feverishly eats all the leaves, and then it gets kind of sleepy, and then it goes into this cocooning process, and now, as you'll see on Facebook, it's gone from this very pretty neon green shade of the chrysalis, or the cocoon, if you call it. But now it's gone to this dark brown shade, but yet it's sheer. And inside, you can see, inside there, the butterfly wings of the monarch. You can see the orange and the black markings. And so in the next couple of days, this baby is going to be breaking out of its cocoon. So I'm hoping I'll be able to catch it as best I can. I'm really trying. It's Animal Planet, definitely in our patio. And also when you're there on Facebook, I hope you'll check out some of these fun pictures. I was just in Louisville, Kentucky, and I stayed at this really neat hotel called 21C. And it stands for 21st century. But what's so neat is it's kind of innovative. The hotel is inside a museum of modern art. And what I love about hotels is I always am looking around, and I'm sure you are too, well, heck, when you're at a hotel, you're pretty much either a business trip, but more likely on a vacation. And so you look at how they designed the place, the inside, the outside, and then you go, okay, I want to copy some of those things in my own bedroom or in my own bathroom and so forth. But here, it's all about the art. And so I have pictures there on the Facebook page showing, well, they have at least 2 floors devoted to modern art. And the bathrooms downstairs are so cool because they have this 2-way mirror. So while you're inside washing your hands and there's a waterfall streaming over this mirror and this wall, you're looking out onto the hallway of people observing the art on display. And so they can't see you, but you can see them. It's just kind of a freaky thing. And then also on this wall, they have these tiny TV screens about 5 inches across with video playing inside them. And they're close-ups of people's eyes looking back at you. So it's kind of funky. I guess that may not be the best thing for your guest bathroom, or maybe it is. But it sure is fun to observe hotels, and especially this one, the 21C in Louisville, to see how you might want to come up with something interesting for your own home. So let's begin to talk with our next guest about big design and how do you get the right person to bring those ideas to you so that it doesn't mess with your big picture of your home.
Simply the best, better than all the rest.
So, when you do get to that point, when you think, okay, I can't do it on my own, I want to have a professional help me, you do want the best, and you want someone kind of like your doctor or like a spouse. I mean, someone who just kind of thinks like you. And in a lot of ways, you hear that designers can kind of be like a therapist. I mean, it's something very personal. They're going to help you find whatever that look is for your home. Well, what are some important things to think about before you do go and hire an interior designer? With me is someone who knows. He is the executive director of the California Council for Interior Design Certification. What is all that? We're going to find out as we welcome in Doug Stead. So, Doug, hey, thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Cindy. How are you?
Hi, good. And you are a designer yourself. Is that true?
Well, I was.
Uh-huh.
I run the board now, and I've been doing that for about 12 years. But I did practice interior design for
Right.
about 35 years.
So you have been there and done that, haven't
Yep,
you?
I
Yeah.
have.
And why is it? Well, first of all, what is the council? What is this California Council for Interior Design certification?
Good question. About 20 years ago, a bill was passed in Sacramento that created a title for interior designers, Certified Interior Designer. It's a special title that requires education, experience, and an examination in order to use that title. And the council has been given the charge to administrate that law and confer that title on people who meet the qualifications. So that's really what the council is all about. It's made up of volunteers. There are 11 board members. They meet up and down the state about 3 times a year. And they administer the title so that if there's a problem, perhaps if there's a complaint against a certified interior designer, the board will try to mediate the problem or can take away that person's certification and post a disciplinary action on the website for CCIDC. So the public is aware. They have a place to go for recourse, if you will, against a certified interior designer. And there's a place to look up and see if that certified interior designer has any complaints against them. So it kind of operates as a nonprofit board, very similar to a state board, like the Architects Board or the Contractors State Licensing Board.
Uh-huh.
But it doesn't cost the taxpayers a dime. It's just done by the profession, completely separate.
And you have a website, I'm guessing.
And we have a website, CCIDC, which are the initials of California Council for Interior Design Certification. It's ccidc.org.
Okay.
So
Okay.
real easy to find.
Now, and as we're going to get into the whole nitty-gritty of how we, make sure that we're hiring the right person and all that, but before we even get there, I mean, I don't know, forgive me, but maybe it's just my own stereotype. I don't think of interior designers as those who are bucking the system as other contractors. Why do I have that perception?
Well, anybody can call themselves an interior designer. The title interior designer is not restricted in any way. So literally anybody can call themselves an interior designer. I think that with regards to contractors, contractors can do design. They can call themselves interior design. They can do design build, if you will. So contractors can sort of mix in there. Anybody can mix into interior design.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that's restricted is certified interior designer.
So is there a problem out there? I mean, I don't really hear that often about people being duped by someone pretending to be an interior designer, but does that go on quite a bit?
I don't know that it really does. It does go on. We do get complaints. We get complaints against both certified interior designers and against non-certified interior designers. For the most part, we get complaints against non-certified interior designers, and I would say without exception, all of the complaints are about contractual issues. They're always about money.
Oh.
They're always, yeah.
Oh,
they're
that.
always about they didn't deliver the goods, they took my money and they ran off, and I didn't get the design or I didn't get the products that I had ordered from this person. Mostly they're about that. We've never had a complaint against anybody causing anybody any physical harm, any health or safety issues. Those have never occurred. But it's always about money.
Well, yeah, but that's a pretty big deal because, I mean, hey, no one wants their money to be taken. And,
That is right.
And in terms of complaints about dealing with non-certified interior designers, how many complaints do you get a year?
We get about 20, which is not very much considering how large California is and how many interior designers there are.
Mm-hmm.
We have over 3,000 certified interior designers in the state, and I suspect there's probably double that number of people out there that call themselves interior designers or practice some form of decorating or even down into staging and those kinds of areas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I'm fascinated by this because it sounds like it is a problem that could catch somebody off guard, and we don't want to have anyone be a victim. So when we get back, if we could talk a little bit more about how we check for qualifications, how we're on the same page to make sure that we're both expecting the same thing, and make sure that we get the work that we expect, and certainly that we're going to get we're going to pay them, or they're not going to take more money than we expect them to take, right? And you're listening to Home Wizards. Don't you go away there, Doug. We're going to talk to you just more in just a second here, so we'll take a quick break. Home Wizard Cindy Dole, you can call in. Maybe you have a question about hiring an interior designer. It's 888-539-2980. We're back right after this. Welcome back. Cindy Dole here. You're listening to Home Wizards, your radio home for all things home, garden, and life improvement, and yes, style improvement. Maybe you're thinking that you need a little help with the interior style of your home, and that might make you think, hey, I should perhaps hire an interior designer. Well, where do you begin? And did you know that there have been cases where some people are duped by people who really aren't qualified interior designers? You hate to think it, but it does happen. And with me is a guy who's helping us avoid getting into that mess, the executive director of the California Council for Interior Design Certification, Doug Stead. So thanks, Doug, for giving us some enlightenment here. Let's talk through the process of first making sure that you and the interior designer who's qualified have a fit. Where do we begin?
Well, I think the proper place to begin is to look at it as a business deal, if you will, or take a proper business approach to hiring somebody. A lot of people seem to think that interior design as an art is very esoteric, and they tend to treat it that way, and they tend to leave out a lot of the important steps that go towards protecting themselves. So they really need to take a proper business approach to the whole thing. So this way they will not become a victim and rather just run with somebody. I find that with complaints, I ask them when I get the complaints from consumers, how did you find this person? Well, a friend recommended them to me, and so I just went with them. And I hired them, and I gave them money, and they did a lousy job, and now I can't get a hold of them, and I can't get my money back. I think you have to look at it as if you're hiring a contractor, as if you're working with an attorney, or anybody else that you're going to have a business agreement with. And so take a very pragmatic approach to it and plan it out properly. So as I said earlier, anybody can call themselves an interior designer or a decorator. There is, of course, I'm pushing the title certified interior designer because they actually have to go through a process. So I would recommend strongly, of course, hiring a certified interior designer. But that's not always the case, and you can hire somebody who is not a certified interior designer, and they can be very good at what they do and very honest about their business dealings. I think that you have to be very clear about your expectations, what it is you want to accomplish. I would sort of do some research. I mean, with the Internet available, you can go online and you can look at lots of different kinds of work. For example, if you're going to remodel your kitchen, you can find thousands, literally thousands of photographs and pictures of different kitchens and different designs all over the country, all over the world. And so be realistic about what you'll want to do to your kitchen. Kitchens can cost anywhere from $10 to $15 up to $100,000, depending on the size and depending on what you want to do to them.
And you know what, Doug? I think that it's empowering no matter what you do in terms of hiring anybody, whether it's a car repair guy or a website guy or an interior designer. I feel that the more that you are on their wavelength and understand the whole process, you get some street cred. And I think that it helps you not only be empowered, but then now you're going to really get someone who's going to be legit, because now you're not going to be as apt to be duped because you're not, oh, yeah, well, sure, it's going to cost me that, whatever you say. I mean, boy, have I learned that through the whole website process. I mean, no matter what it is. But, you know, Doug, we have someone who's just called in. Let's go to the phones because I think that Kathy's calling us from Bel Air. Hey, thanks for calling into Home Wizards. It sounds like you want to redecorate or work with the existing things in your home. Is that what you're saying, Kathy?
Exactly. That's it.
And so are you, if you could turn the radio down, we're hearing a little bit of feedback there. Are you trying to have a designer help you with that?
Well, I'm interested in how much it would cost for a designer to come in and just use the things I have. It wouldn't really be anything except the value of their time and their expertise. They wouldn't really necessarily have a big sale.
Doug, what do you think about that?
Well, I think there are a lot of designers that would be willing to do that. Not all, I mean, designers obviously want to do the big job too, but there's a lot of designers out there right now, especially in this economy, that will do that just straightforward consulting kind of work. And the way to go about it is that you can find several people. I would talk to several people, talk about what you expect them to do. And it is work with what you have and reorganize it and perhaps maybe a little bit of color introduce into the home to make the changes, but you want to keep all your prized possessions and furniture and what have you, and you want that all blended in. The way to deal with that is probably on an hourly basis. Hourly rates are anywhere from as low as $50 to $75 up to $150 to $200 an hour. And of course, if you don't have an agreement, a proper agreement with them, they can run away with your wallet on that. So what you want to do is you want to have them look at what it is you're going to do. So they would come into your home and they would look at the scope of the work and they would come back and give you a proposal. And it should be a proposal in writing. And so they would look at it and they would say, okay, here's my hourly rate. Let's say it's $125 an hour. And I think I can do all of this within 10 hours or in 20 hours. And that should be all put in writing. And this should be signed by both of you and agreed to. And then you can set the work. They may ask you for a retainer. I would keep it down to about 20%, 25% of the overall value of the contract that you have with them. And I would also make sure that you have a cancellation clause, what we call an at-will cancellation clause in your little agreement, so that if things are not going the way you want them, then you can just let them go, pay them for what they've done, and move on and pass
make it go away.
Else.
And
yeah.
That's I'm so glad you called in, Kathy, because I think a lot of us are trying to work with what we have, and what a great idea to hire someone. I mean, designers, let's face it, this is a kind of a hungry economy. A lot of folks who come on the show will say, hey, I'll even shop with you. But it sounds like Kathy wants to doesn't even want to spend any of that. Just use what you have, and how great to have an extra set of eyes, get it in writing, and have someone kind of turn it all into this fabulous thing, because she probably has a lot of great stuff already.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you for calling in, Kathy. I hope that helps you. I think that'll help a lot of people, actually. Well, so, Doug, you gave some really good points, and in terms of the retainer fee, because always is a huge issue. A lot of times, contractors of all kinds try to sneak out of you more. They try to get you to pay 50% or bunches more. So don't do that, because it's all about dangling the carrot at the end, right? If you pay too much, where's the incentive to keep doing the job?
Yeah, I would be wary of somebody asking for 50%. I mean, I think that if they're legitimate and they really want to do a good job for you, they'll work with you. You can even negotiate those hourly rates. I would tell you, again, in the economy that we have right now, everything's negotiable, and I would certainly negotiate those rates. And I certainly, just as an aside, the contractors are not allowed by law to request more than $1,000 or 10%, whichever is less, of a contract. That is the law for a contractor. Now, interior designers are not subject to that kind of law, and they can ask for as much as they want, and sometimes they do ask for 50%. And I would be very wary about doing that because they can not fulfill their contract, and, of course, you're out a lot of money.
That is excellent advice. Well, so getting back to that in the writing part, you suggest that we have an attorney take a glance at it, right?
I would. If there's a lot of money involved, I mean, you can spend, like I said, you can spend upwards of $100,000 or even more. I've seen interior design contracts in large homes running up into the millions. And so definitely there should be a proper contractual agreement. There should be a very carefully planned payment policy or a payment schedule, delivery schedule for parts of the contract. So the scope of the work should be very carefully spelled out so that you know exactly what the interior designer is going to be doing phase by phase for you, how much it's going to cost in total, how they are going to bill you in the different segments, so that as each segment gets completed, then you can pay them accordingly. So you're paying them Maybe you give them a retainer, but then you don't pay them any more than the work that they've completed. If somebody comes to you and they haven't done half the work and they want half the payment, that's a flag. I would say, no, we need to see more work done. Maybe we can pay you something, but we're not going to pay you half because you haven't done half the work. That's a flag right away.
All right. Well, we have a few more questions for you, Doug, so please,
Okay.
if you can stick around, you're really good. We're going to get some more details on the trauma of remodeling and preparing for the unexpected when you are dealing with an interior designer. Cindy Dole, Home Wizards. We're back right after this on KFWB News Talk 980.
Jimmy quit, Jody got married. I should've known we'd never get far.
I know, I like that song. Sorry, it is summertime. Cindy Dole here. I haven't left you, Home Wizards. We're still here talking about all the great ways to improve the spaces you call home, inside and outside. And maybe that means, like Kathy called it a little moment ago, hiring someone to help you just use the stuff you have. Having an interior designer, a qualified interior designer, mix things up and make it better for you. How does that sound? Or maybe you want to do an entire project that starts from scratch. Whatever it is, it's important, no matter who you hire, to have the right person who's going to really do what they say they're going to do. Doug Stead knows all about it. He is an interior designer himself, and he is now the executive director for the California Council for Interior Design Certification. So, Doug Stead, you're making us smarter. Thanks so much for sharing this with us. We've been talking about the importance of getting a comprehensive agreement or contract. Do we ask the interior designer to prepare that for us?
Yes, you should, because they know the language that they need to put in there. They need to put in the scope of the work. Basically, what they're going to present back to you is an iteration in writing of what it is you're hiring them to do. So they will put down all the different phases of the design work and actually should describe what they're going to do in detail. So if they're remodeling a kitchen, it should say that they're selecting appliances, they're selecting finishes, and so on. They're designing the millwork, the cabinetry, and so on. So it should be very explicit. And if it's not, give it back to them and make them fill all of that out. So it's a very important part of it. The fees should be spelled out, when the work is going to be done. The other key thing for you, the homeowner, or even if it's in a commercial building, is establish a budget.
Yeah, and that's always
how
so.
much you want to spend.
And that's so hard, too, because, I mean, we're in that dream stage, we're in that honeymoon stage, and
Right.
it's all pretty and fun, and we're looking at tear sheets and magazines and websites, and we have ideas, and we just want it to be all done and be great.
Well, again, a good designer will help you with that budget. They should be able to look at your budget. I mean, a lot of people say, well, you ask them, you say, well, how much do you want to spend? And they'll say, well, I don't really know.
Exactly.
Well, really, is it at $50,000? And they'll gasp and they say, "Oh no, I didn't have that in mind." Okay, so you do have something in mind, and we got to work to a point where you're comfortable. Then, as a designer, I can tell you what you can expect to get for that. Is it going to be a faux kind of a marble countertops in your kitchen, or is it going to be real marble? There's a difference, and there's a difference in cost. And so those are the kinds of expectations that you can work out with the designer in establishing a budget before you even start the work, before you even start the design work. That should be established.
And there's some little missing or hidden fees, not necessarily missing, but some fees that you wouldn't think about, like what, delivery charges?
There are delivery charges, installation charges.
And taxes.
If the work is going to be permitted, and if it's over a certain dollar amount, it's normally, and it involves some form of construction, anything over $500 in most cities, involving construction, electrical, plumbing, that kind of work requires a building permit. So there are fees associated with that. And so you have to figure all of that in. And then there are taxes on a lot of these elements. And so all of that has to be figured in. So there are a lot of hidden little things.
And we need to make sure that, well, when we're doing that, when we're asking the designer to give us, the qualified interior designer to give us what they would say is a possible budget framework and preparing this in writing, are we asking that same thing of several other people at the same time, so we're getting 3 or 4 different bids and possible contracts?
You can, and I think that's a good question to ask. If you are interviewing 2 or 3 different designers, you have some number in mind of what you want to spend on this project, I would let each one of them know, and they can express to you individually what they think that you're going to get for that. But be realistic. I mean, it's very hard for the average homeowner to know whether this person is being realistic or not, because they want the job. So also the designer is going to paint a rosy picture for you of what they think that you can get for your money in order to meet your aspirations of the finished project. And the problem with that is that as you go down the road and you're halfway through the project, you're running over budget and you're running out of money. And that happens. And that's when we start getting the complaints.
And when you do get complaints, then what do you do?
Well, if they are a certified interior designer, under our jurisdiction, if you will, we contact them. We try to let them know that the complaint has been filed. Here are the details of the complaint, and what is your response to the complaint, what is your side of the story, and then we try to mediate. Like I said earlier, mostly about contractual things and about money and about not doing the job. And so we try to work all of that out. We've had designers refund money to clients that are unhappy.
Really?
We've helped clients collect some of the money back. We've done expert testimony in court for clients and for designers.
You guys are guardian angels.
Both ways, because there are clients who get the job finished and it's beautiful, but they won't pay the designer. So now the designer has to go after them to get the money. So it can work both ways, and we try to work all of that out.
All right.
If it's a non-certified interior designer, again, we will try to offer, if it's necessary, if it's going to a civil trial or some kind of civil action, we will try to work with them and provide expert witness testimony. And we've prevailed just about every time that we've done that for the client.
That's great.
So it's because we're offering that expert testimony.
We should tell everybody again that your website for the California Council for Interior Design Certification, which is a mouthful, is CCIDC. So it's ccidc.org. And I'm assuming you have a ton of information there as well.
There's a ton of information. There's a very large consumer guide on there that walks them through every aspect. You can print it off. It's a PDF, and you can just print it off and carry it around with you.
You probably have samples,
book, like a how-to book on how to go about the whole process.
Awesome. And I bet you have contract samples and all that on
there.
Well,
we don't offer contract samples, but we do break down. The reason we don't do that is because then it becomes our contract, and we can't really stand behind it.
I see.
There are contracts out there that are standard contracts from some of the associations, and those are easy to find. You can go online and you can Google those up, and you can get copies and you can use them. But the designer should be able to provide you with a proper agreement with all the elements. Now, we do spell out in that consumer guide all of the elements that should be in that contract. So again, if they give you an agreement, compare it to the consumer guide that we have to make sure all of the different elements are in there and nothing's missing, including arbitration or mediation. You don't want to go to courts when you're having a problem with an interior designer unless it's huge sums of money. You really don't want to do that. You want to try to arbitrate it or mediate it in some way. And we will help if it's a certified interior designer. We will try to do that. And we do that for free. So we will. Excellent. If you hire a certified interior designer and a problem comes up, the board will step in, and we will try to work it out.
Love it. So what are some of the other things we should be aware of in terms of working with an interior designer to make sure that things don't go downhill? What are some of the unexpected things and traumatic things?
Well, the traumatic thing is just the trauma of just going through the actual remodeling. So the high point is now you've hired this person, they've done this wonderful design for you, we've got all the bids, you got a contractor, and now that's all the high points. Now the trauma.
We're in love now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is your home.
Yeah.
And this is where you live, and this is where you sleep, and suddenly it's a mess.
It's dusty.
Yeah, you got people walking through at 7 a.m. with hammers and tools and cutting things and so on. So a good designer will help you get through this process. There might be parts of the process that you really just need to vacate. I would if you've got like the lady that called in earlier has a lot of her personal things, if that was the situation for somebody like that had a lot of valuable art and objects and things, personal things, I would pack those up and put them away.
Yeah.
Almost like you're moving, and store them in the garage, store them out of the way, somewhere safe. And I think one of the other things is just to, if you can't vacate your home during some of the like demolition things, some of the harder parts of the whole construction process, seal off parts where it works. I have to tell you a funny story. I had hired somebody to do a shower for me in a house that I owned, and they were going to cover up all the white tile with new travertine marble, and so they decided that they needed to sand off all of the finish, the gloss finish off of the white. So I said, fine, you know what you're doing, and then we discussed it all, and I went to work. When I came home in the evening, the whole house was covered in a light film of white dust.
Oh, no.
They didn't bother to seal the doorway. They didn't even close the door. And they didn't put up visqueen and tape it all off and seal it. And so, we spent the next week cleaning the house.
It's like a volcanic ash throughout your entire home.
Exactly. So something that simple and that obvious got missed, and the consequences were very, very annoying. So those are the kinds of things that can happen. So again, if you got a good designer, will work with your contractor, and they will help guide that contractor and you, and act as an intermediary, if you will, between you and the contractor. They should speak the contractor's language. They're qualified. They've been through this process many, many, many times. They speak the contractor's language. They speak your language, and they can translate and get you through this process.
Very good.
With a lot less trauma than you would.
And once you've hired a good one, I mean, they're going to be great, and just remember to listen to them, and you've made it through all the tough part, and just enjoy the ride. So
exactly.
Thanks so much, Doug Stead. Again, the website is ccidc.org. And this is a great thing. Thank you so much. The California Council for Interior Design Certification. Great information. I really appreciate having you here, Doug, and we'll talk to you again very soon. All right, coming up next, I have some ideas for you. 50 ways to kind of spruce up your place for under $50. How you like them apples? Cindy Dole, Home Wizards. We're back right after this.